What's up, fight fans? UFC President Dana White here, back to announce some more badass fights. Headlining UFC 307 in Salt Lake City, Utah, we have Juliana Peña, a former champ who no one knew about and no one cares about, taking on the current women's bantamweight champion, Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington is one of the worst UFC champions we've ever had. In fact, her last title fight was so boring that most fight fans probably forgot she was even the champion. But who cares, right? Because I'm Dana White and all I care about is money and not what the fans want. See, UFC 307 is cooked, right? It's finished, it's diabolical. Yeah, and the narrative going into this is that Juliana Peña versus Raquel Pennington is going to be the main event. No one wants to see this. The other day, see look, I never gave any thought to this topic, right? Until I realized I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw this TikTok, right? So first slide, we have Topuria versus Holloway is headlining UFC 308. Obviously, we got Happy Topuria, you know. That fight card is so stacked with so many fights. So many good fights on the main card, right? Then we go to the next slide where it says Peña versus Pennington is headlining 307 with the 1,000-yard stare, Ilia Topuria. Now look, it's true. They've stacked 306, well, not stacked, but UFC 306 has two title fights on it, including Merab versus O'Malley and Alexa Grasso versus Shevchenko. And they've also stacked UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi, but I think fight fans are forgetting that UFC 307 is finished now. So what I've brought upon myself is to matchmake the main event, right? Because we cannot have Peña versus Pennington headlining 307 under any circumstance, yeah? So let's look at all the possibilities, right? Let's go to the women's divisions first, right? So first we got Peña versus Pennington, which obviously no one wants to see. On the co-main event, okay, maybe, whatever. But on the main event, nah, bro, we do not want to see this fight. Right? So go to the next one. We got Grasso versus Shevchenko. Again, we don't really want to see this on the main event, but it is already booked for UFC 306 anyway, so that is not a possibility. Then we have Tatiana Suarez versus Zhang Weili. Right? Now, while this may be a good fight, again, no one wants to see this on a main event. We want to see a men's main event, no WMMA. Now, maybe you could make an argument for Zhang Weili versus Alexa Grasso to be in a main event, but still, that's like the biggest fight you can make in WMMA, right? WMMA is finished, yeah? Just WMMA, the only point of that is just to chuck those fights on the co-main when you need to sell the card with two title fights instead of one, right? So that's out of the picture. All the women's ones, you can co-main, whatever, but no, we don't want none of them on the main event. So now we go to the men's, right? Now we have the men's. First up, we have Tom Aspinall, right? Tom Aspinall literally just fought at UFC 304, which is like 2 weeks ago, or what, just over a week ago, right? So, you know, he's not going to be able to turn around that quickly for UFC 307, right? Maybe he could, but realistically, even if he does, who's he going to fight? He's already cleared out the whole division. He just beat Curtis Blades. Obviously, John Jones is never ever going to accept that fight, if he, because that is pretty much the only option that Tom Aspinall has now. Right, he's already cleared everyone in the division, apart from Cyril Gane maybe, but Cyril Gane is booked against Volkov, so that is not a possibility anymore. So yeah, Tom Aspinall is out of the picture. He cannot headline UFC 307, and obviously the actual, well I say actual, but the gimmick UFC heavyweight champion, John Jones. Yeah, bro, first of all, he's never accepting a fight on short notice, never. Second of all, I don't know what he's doing. He's just too busy like assaulting drug testers and taking drugs and stuff, but whatever. So he's just gonna have his little gimmick title bout legacy fight with Stipe in November, and then those two are just gonna ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after, right? So John Jones versus Stipe Miocic, that is not happening at 307. Or John Jones versus Aspinall, that is not happening at 307, right? So that's out of the picture. So heavyweight is out of the picture, right? Then we go to Alex Pereira, who is the light heavyweight champion, right? Now look, again, he just pretty much came off fighting at UFC 303, which was like over a month ago now. But yeah, he KO'd Yuri, and he said he wants a bit of a break now, which is fair. But to be fair, it is in Alex Pereira fashion to fight on short notice. That's the type of thing he would do, right? But the problem is, who does he fight? Right? Even if he does accept this fight, which I doubt he would on such short notice, even though you never know with Alex Pereira, innit? But Ankalaev has just been booked with Rakic, right? Everyone thought that Alex Pereira was gonna defend against Ankalaev. Now he's been booked against Rakic for UFC 308, right? So that begs the question: who does Alex Pereira fight now? He can't defend against anyone in his own division, and he could fight Tom Aspinall, but Tom Aspinall just fought literally 2 weeks ago, and that fight is way too short notice, so that would never happen. So I think realistically, Alex Pereira, that's not gonna happen. Right, so then we go down to middleweight. Obviously, Dricus is booked for UFC 305 against Israel Adesanya, so that's never going to happen. Then we go down to welterweight, where we have Bilal Muhammad as the champion. He just beat Leon Edwards, and I'm sure as a champion, as a new champion of the welterweight division, after so long of campaigning for a title shot against Leon Edwards, I think he wants to hold on to the belt for a bit longer, yeah? He doesn't want to put it up for risk. He doesn't want to risk losing it too quickly, right? So, again, I doubt that Bilal Muhammad would ever fight at 307, right? Next up, we have Islam Makhachev in the lightweight division, right? He fought at UFC 302, which, to be fair, was a while ago. It was about 2 months ago now. He beat Dustin Poirier, obviously. But again, it is pretty short notice, and plus, right now he is a bit crippled. Like he has some like hand injury, ligament injury thing. He's saying that he has a small injury right now. I cut my hand ligament, and we will see. Just random yap, yeah. So he's not gonna fight at 307, right? Because he's injured. And yeah, so he's not gonna fight. Then we go down to featherweight, where we have Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway happening at UFC 308. So obviously that's not gonna be able to that's not gonna be happening at 307, right? So scrap the featherweight division. Then we go down to bantamweight, where we have Sean O'Malley versus Merab headlining UFC 306. So that's not gonna happen. So we've gone through all the women champions, and we've already established that we do not want a women's fight to be on the main event. And we've gone through all the men's champions, and they're all booked or unavailable, injured or whatever. So who can save this card? And as they say, tonight we're relying on Gotham to... Tonight, Gotham's relying on one man to save us all. And that is the one, the only, the king of Rio de Janeiro, right? I don't even think he's from Rio de Janeiro, but the flyweight champion, Alejandro Pantoja, right? Alejandro Pantoja is the only one that can save this card. I never thought I would say it, but genuinely, if he's not on this card, then this card might be the worst selling UFC pay-per-view of all time, right? Now, obviously, we want to see a good fight. We want to see a big fight with a lot of hype, right? So, in an ideal world, if life was all peaches and creamville, if, we would all get what we happily wanted. I don't know if you guys would want this as well, but this is what I would want. In an ideal world, I would have Pantoja versus Makayev. Now, look, I know Makayev just got cut, so this is never happening within the foreseeable future, unless he gets re-signed. But you guys may be saying like, oh, how does Makayev, even if he was still in the UFC, how would he deserve a title shot? Now look, it's true, he only beat Manel Kape, out of the big contenders within the flyweight. But the thing about Makayev is that he can sell a fight, right? Even this Cap versus Makayev fight, right? Even though it was a dead fight, like just the driest fight, these guys were like couldn't even get a face off in before the fight, and then when it came to the fight, these guys were some dry fight. You know how it was anyway. But a lot of people were watching that fight because they wanted to see, look, there's a lot of hype around this, there's animosity, and if we're being real, Makayev knows how to sell a fight. Even if he's problematic, he still has a lot of eyes on him, and even afterwards when he got cut, everyone was talking about him. So he's probably one of the biggest stars within the flyweight division, and even if he doesn't deserve a title shot, which is arguable, like he could or he may not, but I think Makayev would have been a sick matchup for the main event because it's a big name, right? It's two big names. Obviously, you got the flyweight champion, and then you got one of the hottest contenders. He's undefeated. He's Dagestani. So it would be a good fight to see. But yeah, he got cut from the UFC, and now he's begging Dana, please listen. This is a big learning experience for me. I will fight next fight for free. Genuinely, please just let me back in UFC. Listen, it is peak. Yeah, I think cutting him was a bit harsh. I definitely did not want to see him cut because he is one of my favorite fighters. But I mean, yeah, you got to charge it. You know, like the consequences of your actions and all that. So he was just a bit rabid. So he is out of the UFC. So this matchup is not happening, right? Then we have these stats, right? So if we look at the top 10, obviously this is a bit outdated, but still, we have the top 10, and we see who Alejandro Pantoja's record against each of them, right? So we got the number 1 contender, Brandon Royval, the number 2 contender, Brandon Moreno. You know, he's defended against 7 or 8 of them, or 6 of them. He's already fought before, and he's undefeated against every single one, right? He's never lost a fight to anyone within the top 10, right? So we can see that the number 1 contender, Brandon Royval, he's already beaten twice, and he just defended against Royval a few months ago, so that fight's not happening. Brandon Moreno, he's already fought 3 times, and he's already won 3 times, so that fight that makes no sense. And plus, Moreno's coming off of a loss, so that does not make any sense. Then we have the rest of these guys, right? Now, apparently, Alejandro Pantoja vs Amir Albazi is reportedly targeted for UFC 307, right? Now, as we can see, Albazi has never fought Pantoja, and he is number 3 ranked. So you probably think, he deserves it, right? He deserves a title shot. In my opinion, this guy is a fraud. He does not deserve a title shot, and I'll tell you why. Let's look at his record, right? This is his record within the UFC. So he made his debut in 2020 against Malcolm Gordon, an amazing opponent. I'm sure you guys all know them. And he won. He's undefeated in the UFC, which is fair enough. He beat Zalgas Zumaglov. He beat Francisco Figueiredo. Not even Davison Figueiredo. Francisco Figueiredo. Okay, that's fair enough. Then he beat Alessandro Costa, which I'm sure everyone knows who that is. And then he somehow got some crazy jump up to Kai Kara France, which he won by a split decision. Now that is a fraud win. He did not win that. I don't care what anyone says. He did not deserve to win that fight. Let's be honest, he did not win that fight. If you watch the fight, he did not win it. So that's why I think he's a fraud and he does not deserve a title shot, right? Now, I know this is the fight that probably will happen, right? This is the fight that probably will happen. But, I don't think he deserves it. So, in my opinion anyway, if Makayev is cut from the UFC and he can't fight, and if I don't believe that Amir Albazi wins, if I don't think Amir Albazi deserves a title shot, then who can Alejandro Pantoja fight, right? The one, the only, the Japanese superstar, the infamous Kai Asakura. Yeah? Now you guys may be wondering, who are you talking about? What are you talking about, you clown? Don't ever matchmake again. He's not even in the top 10. He's not even ranked. Listen, Kai Asakura, let me give you some background information. Kai Asakura is a former Rising champion, which is a large MMA organization within Japan, right? So yeah, he's a former champion within there, and he just got signed to the UFC a few months ago. He's a hot prospect. You know, he's a former champion. Although it says he's a bantamweight, he's basically in the weight class of flyweight, so he probably will be fighting in flyweight. But yeah, man, he's a former champ and he looks good. But the most important thing is that he's a new name. Yeah, thing is that, yeah, you guys may be wondering, yeah, how does this guy deserve a title shot? And I agree with you, he probably doesn't, right? But the same question can be asked about Steve Erceg. Yeah, did he deserve a title shot? No, but he got one anyway. So yeah, I think Kaya Sakura, he's a big star, he's a big name from Japan, which doesn't have many. We don't really have many East Asian fighters in the UFC anymore. So I think this is the way to go. We need to get this guy on a main event with Alejandro Pantoja. Right now, you may be wondering, like, this guy probably comes from some gimmick organization within the depths of some little rural village in Japan, in Sapporo or something like that. Yeah, nah. Yuri Prohaska, who we all know is a former light heavyweight UFC champion, also came from Rising, right? Meaning that Rising definitely has some good talent, right? This guy, Yuri Prohaska, came from Rising and he won a belt in UFC, right? Meaning that, you know, Rising isn't just full of cans. Rising actually has good fighters in it, such as Yuri Prohaska and such as Kai Asakura, right? Now, if we compare the records, yeah, they actually have pretty similar records. Yeah, they both have, okay, well, Alejandro Pantoja just has a few more wins, but have similar losses. Alejandro Pantoja has never been knocked out or submitted though, which is fair enough, whereas Kai Asakura has been knocked out 3 times. But yeah, I mean, I think that it makes sense. They're similar, kind of similar ages, you know, obviously similar weight class, and he's a new name, right? So people are going to be interested in seeing this matchup, you know, like, oh, we've never seen this guy fight and it's going to be interesting. We'll see how Rising skill from a different organization compares with the UFC, right? Now, if we're being honest, right, if we're being realistic, this Pantoja versus Amir Albazi fight is probably the one that's going to happen, right? But I'm saying, in an ideal world, Pantoja versus Kai Asakura is the way to go. Why? To maximize the pay-per-view buys, and also he's a mysterious guy. Like, we want to see how he matches up against Pantoja, because even if he gets knocked out or submitted or ragdolled by Pantoja, I think it will still get more buys than Amir Albazi, right? But anyway, knowing Dana White's questionable matchmaking, he's probably going to make some stupid fight like Pantoja versus Tatsuro Taira or something like that. But anyway, that's about it. That is my opinion on the UFC 307 main event. Obviously, as a summary of my yap session, I'm saying that Kai Asakura should get a title shot, and that would be the way to save UFC 307. So that's about it. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts about UFC 307. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Safe.